All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Both Sides podcast. Today we are joined by Emily Davidson, one of the directors out of the Sotheby's Woollahra office. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And also thank you to Luke, your partner, and the family members that actually suggested for you to come on. Our solicitor, Megan, from Dot and Crossett, suggested you come on, and you're a bit hesitant. Now, your family's pushed you to come on. I want to understand, why is someone that's at the top of the game, that's doing extremely well, a little bit hesitant to come on film with us?
I just don't like talking about myself, if I'm being honest.
That's the next hour.
No, I'm really glad that I got the push. I really enjoy listening to the agents that you have on the show, or the podcast. So I guess, if there's anything that I can give back, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's have some fun. So I just want to start off the podcast around your backstory in real estate from the time you entered real estate in Brisbane to where you are now, because there's not a whole lot of media hype around how, what your storyline is. So to give everyone a bit of context before we start talking about what you're doing now, can you give an explanation around your start in real estate, what's transpired since, and where you're at now?
Yeah, of course. So I sort of fell into real estate. I finished school, was a little bit lost, didn't really know what my direction looked like. And I thought, might go to uni, like the sort of typical thing. You finish school, you have to go to uni. That's kind of what most people put as your model. So I got accepted into uni into an interior design course, and then very unexpectedly, my dad passed away, thanks guys, which then kind of tipped everything upside down. And I thought, what am I going to do? Like I don't want to study. I'm obviously grieving, don't want to study, but I need to do something. So I took a position as a marketing coordinator at a small real estate agency, which my mum was working for at the time. My mum, Christine Rudolph, is an agent up in Brisbane. So I was working there, and I started to really enjoy being able to, see these beautiful homes and work with some amazing agents and listen to them doing their deals. So then from there, I moved out of that. I thought real estate is actually something that I want to do. So I moved away from that agency, and I started with my mum as her EA at Ray White New Farm. And I was with her for about 2 or 3 years and progressed into a sales associate role. And from there, I thought I got itchy feet, and I thought I have been in Brisbane. I've grown up in Brisbane. I've been here for so long. I want to do something a bit different. I also sort of wanted to get out of the shadow of working under her as well. We had started to build an amazing brand as a mother-daughter team. And I just thought I just want to do something a bit different. So I gave her notice and literally packed up my 4 suitcases of clothes, like really cold back then, and moved down here. And I, at that stage, had taken a position at Ray White. I was working at Ray White New Farm, so I wanted to stay within the brand. And my very first boss in real estate from the small boutique agency said, I think before you make the commitment to go to Ray White, I'd encourage you to meet Shannon Whitney from Bresic Whitney, and have a chat with him and see if there's any positions available. And from there, I fell in, I guess, with McLay. I met Shannon, and then I met McLay. Had just joined, he just actually left Will Phillips and gone out on his own, and there was this, amazing opportunity to, I guess, build a brand together, or build a team together.
Was that in his first year?
That was like within his first 3 months, he put on an EA. So he left Will Phillips, took on an associate straight away, and then took on me. So
as an EA or sales
as an
associate?
EA,
gotcha.
yeah. So I made the call coming down here, like the Brisbane market versus the Sydney market is so different.
What have you experienced to be like the biggest difference for you?
The pace, like a 66W certificate, for example, like a property being listed and then sold 2 weeks later. Like in Queensland, it's kind of a 6 to 8 week auction campaign, and you know, you sell it if you're lucky. If not, you move to private treaty, and then there's finance clauses and all of these different things.
Contracts, isn't it?
Different contracts. You know, I remember in my job interview with McLay saying, "I know how to prepare a contract," and he was like, "What?" Solicitors prepare contracts. So, so that's been the biggest change: the pace, the urgency. So,
were you worried coming down? Like, it's a big,
massive move. Yeah. Like, I had a little bit of money behind me. I started working like ever since I could. So when I was 12, I worked at a little patisserie every Saturday, and I used to get my like $80 paycheck for the day and bank that on the Monday. So I had a little bit of money behind me, but certainly not, Sydney rent versus Queensland rent.
Yeah.
Brisbane rent is very different. And I didn't have anyone down here. I didn't have any friends. I had
sink or swim.
Yeah, I had one uncle who used to travel a lot. So it was sort of like, come down here and create a new life. 10 years later, I'm still here.
Crazy. So in terms of your role, you didn't start as an agent like you are now. How many years were you in EA before you transitioned to sales associate, then to being an agent yourself?
About 18 months.
Yeah.
So I had said to McLay, I've been selling in Brisbane, and I said, I do want to get back to being able to sell, but I understand the market's so different. So I really want to do at least a year of being your EA before I progress into sales, which he was all for. I guess after the year came up, it was like, you can be a sales agent, but you got to prove yourself. I'm not just going to slip you straight into that space. So for, 18 months, 2 years, I juggled both roles. And we had another sales associate in the team at the time. So it was kind of like doing all of the admin for the two of us, plus, for him and for McLay and the associate at the time, plus trying to do, buyer work and learn how to sell in this market because, as I said, very, very different to Brisbane. I really, for those first 2 years, it was like doing admin until 6 o'clock at night, and then 6 o'clock to 8 p.m, like I had no one to go home to. I had no friends. So it was like, okay, if I want to progress sooner, if I want to move out of being an EA, I need to hustle. I need to make calls.
What were you doing between 6 and 8?
Calling through any callback book I could get. Like back then, you were doing names and numbers at the front door, and it was all handwritten. So we would just have these books, and I would just sit there, and the other sales associate may have already called through them, but I would just sit there and I'm like, can I call them again? Can I try and find a buyer that I can work with? Can I try and find a lead so that I can take McLay in, and might be a studio, might be a one bed, but just something that I can try and practice my skill set on how to list. Is there someone that's bought a property? Can I add them to my database? So I knew that, I couldn't do it during the day because I was too busy. So I knew that if I could try and find something out of those callback books, a buyer, a lead, even someone from my database that's like, okay, job well done for the day. You can go home now. And then from there, I guess it just compounded. So it got to a stage where I was meeting these great buyers, and I was showing them through, people's properties, and then that was translating into some deals, which then I got rewarded to manage campaigns with McLay. And then slowly but surely we got an EA into the team. So I could get out of that space.
How did you find at the time juggling the workload of both?
Hard, really hard. And I think because I didn't have a partner or family or, friends back then, my friends were real estate agents, people I work with, I could sacrifice my time to be able to put that into my career. But it was tough. It was really tough. Like, when you want to try and progress into this sales role, but you realize that you've got to do the other things as well, like the measure ups, the building and pests, the photo shoots, all of those things that, I think a lot of people don't realize that they see these real estate agents and they think, yep, we just want to get onto signboards straight away. But you've got to build a foundation, and you've got to do that tough stuff. You've got to deal with, you know, the building a pest and sitting at a photo shoot for 2 hours and holding the vendor's hand and moving things around so that the photos look amazing, to actually be able to build, you know, your skill set so that you're covered on everything.
Definitely.
Covered on everything.
And your transition from being a sales associate to full listing and selling, once you had that EA, how many years into working within McLay's team did that happen?
As in, like,
transition from being EA to sales associate, but then from being in a sales associate, once you actually had the EA come on board into your team, and you were then being able to prospect and list and sell?
Probably another like 2 to 3 years before we got an EA full time.
Do you think it was a necessity for that period of time before you could actually transition successfully? Because I see a lot of young agents that will try transition earlier. Some of them will make it, some of them won't. What do you think your mindset is around how successful you would have been if you didn't actually have those foundation years in the beginning?
I think it would have been, I now know how to do everything. I know how to do an agency agreement. I know how to do a contract. I know if something, you know, needs to be sorted with a client, I know how to do it because I had that admin experience and I took my time in that space. Where I think a lot of people come unstuck is they wanted to start listing and selling straight away, that they don't have those foundations in place. So when you're in, you know, a pressure cooker environment and you've got to list something and then sort out an agency agreement and sort out styling quotes and all of that, people come unstuck. Like, I see it a lot in probably not my team, because I have this associates that we now have. They have started, you know, they've got to start an apprenticeship really, where they do have to do those 2 years of hard slog, the tasks that you don't want to do, to then progress into sales.
Is that across the whole office or just?
Whole office, yeah. So any associate that starts in this office, they need to start from day one, even if they've been listing and selling in other offices, in other agencies. Really? The model that McLay and I have built here, which I'm going to take a little bit more of the credit for because of probably where I
take the credit
started. Any associate needs at least 2 years of doing the photo shoots, the running around, basically shadowing our EA, doing any of the tasks that she needs help with, knowing how to create an agency agreement, knowing how to fill out a contract. Like, I see other associates in the marketplace that don't know how to fill out a contract. They don't know how to do contract changes. I'm like, these are basic things that if you want to have a successful career, you need to know everything, because your EA might be go overseas to Europe for a month or be sick for the week. Like, you need to know how to do every little part of the business if you want to be successful.
And in terms of the agents within the office, once they've done those 2 years, are they able to go list and sell and go out on their own?
100%. And they can move that 2-year timeline shorter if they want to by doing what I did. Stay back in the office and hustle. It's all about the time that you want to put in. If you want to come in early to do your admin so that you have more time in the afternoon, go for it. Like, we don't micromanage in this office. So you can come in at 7, you could also come in at 9. It's up to you, as long as you do the task at hand that we ask you to do. But if you want to move that timeline up, where you are then given the opportunity to manage campaigns with us and, you know, deal with buyers and show homes, then that's up to you. Do your tasks in the morning, and then if you want to stay back until late, go for it.
It's an interesting concept, because I remember when I started, like, the expectation was 7:30 first calls go out. I wasn't allowed to finish at the office making calls until 7 p.m. And that was just the expectation. And that was Monday to Friday. Saturday, you know, pointers from like 6, 7 a.m. at worst. Now, in terms of you talking about if you get those bare necessities done, what are those bare necessities or bare minimum tasks that these agents or associates need to do during the day, which allows them to go from like 9 till 5 or 9 till 6 p.m.?
I think there's not really, in our team, there's not really like a set model of what your day looks like, because things could change really quickly.
No morning call blocks. And then
yes, but yes, you've got you want to try and have an ideal day, right?
Yeah.
So that everyone stays on track. But there's just things that happen that can throw that off. So, like for me, for example, my morning was meant to go through all callback books, but I've got a negotiation that's been going on. So that's, thrown my day off. For Lockie, who's our, developing agent, I guess, he has, 4 photo shoots today, measure up a building and pest. They're his bare necessities, but he's got callback books with him so that during the times that, he's sitting there at photo shoots, he can be trying to find some hot buyers for that property or other properties as well. So we don't, I guess, have that model like, you mentioned of come in at 7:30, leave at 7:30 and do 100 calls a day. I just think you get burnt out. And I think you start to resent the job, if I'm being really honest. I am really fortunate when McLay was developing me, he would never track how many calls I did. He may do 100 or 150 calls. I might do 20 or 30, but they're really good connects. I might communicate very differently to a buyer than he does. So I think you've got to kind of have your own, you can certainly guide an associate and say this is the ideal day, but things happen, things come up.
Yeah.
A buyer calls and they say, I'm about to make an offer on, 123 Harris Street. And you're like, get in the car, let me show you 10 other homes that I've got coming up in the next 2 weeks. So if I track my associates or our associates, I should say, on, what buyers they're working with, what properties they're showing those buyers, and then how that's translating to offers. Because I think that's a better metric for success rather than, how many calls are you making?
Yeah. And for these younger guys, is there KPIs for market appraisals, listings booked, or is it mainly just buyer work?
Buyer work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think year 1 and year 2, just buyer work. I want to know what hot buyers you're working with, why they're a hot buyer, what they're bidding and making offers on, whether it's with us or with our competitors. I track for our team the opens that they're going to and the auctions that they're going to, because I think that's really important for their market research. That's something that, Ivan Bresic really drilled into me, like coming from Brisbane, not knowing the market. I would, in between photo shoots or my admin, try and look at 2 or 3 other opens in Paddington, or at that stage we were doing a lot elsewhere as well. So around the inner city, I would just try and understand what something was guided for and what it was selling for. So yeah, I think that's really important for their market research.
Yeah. And being in the eastern suburbs in this pocket, it's stupidly competitive. How did you learn how to list yourself while McLay might have been running around a million places? And how are your sales agents that are developing right now, how are they learning now how to list and sell?
So I was really fortunate. I had a few mentors in my developing years. Ivan Bresic was a big one. Will Phillips was an amazing mentor to me, and obviously McLay as well. So I just was a sponge. I would sit there, any training days that we'd have, role plays on meeting, listing appointments. I would just sit there and write everything down and then ask lots of questions to them. I also, with McLay and Will in particular, would always ask if I can come and do a listing with them. If there was an opportunity where I was talking to that client and they were as well, or Ivan, so I could understand their skill set. And then from there, I guess I developed my own listing pitch.
Is it very different to McLay's?
Very different.
Yeah.
My listing pitch is very different to McLay's listing pitch, to Will's listing pitch, to, any competitor's listing pitch. And so I guess for the associates that we have, we model that as well. Come with us, listen, and then you'll find your own rhythm. Because I think if you sound so scripted, and if you just have this, oh, McLay asked that question and that question and that question and he got that response, like it's not natural.
You're not going to say it the same.
Yeah, you want to have a conversation. Like this person has invited you into their home. They're probably interviewing 3 or 4 other agents. This is their biggest asset. You're about to embark on a 6-week journey with them. You want to have a conversation. You want to build trust. You want to build rapport. You want to understand, I make sure I pay attention to pets, to kids, to family members in the home. Like that's my style, rather than, like, obviously I have my own listing pitch and I go through, my market share and all of those sort of things. But I think you just want to really have a conversation with that person. You want to understand what's important to them. And then from there, you design, how this listing's going to work, how this meeting's going to be run.
Yeah.
Besides the pitch, Emily, what do you think are the foundational principles to allow success in real estate? Like, you've done exceptionally well to crack the Sydney marketplace at such a young age, really. What would you say to the up and comers? What are the starting or the foundational principles that lead to success in real estate?
I don't want to sound like I'm repeating Will Phillips' podcast, but as I said before, Will's a big mentor of mine. And the previous agency that I worked at, which Will worked at as well, they're very heavy on buyer work. So that's been drilled into me. McLay's drilled that into me. I've drilled it into our associates. I truly believe that is how you succeed. I think that's how you have a point of difference. Coming from Ray White, the business model there was call the street, do your top 50 or whatever they're called, magic 50. Yeah. Try and get indoors that way. Like, that's cold data. They're not in real estate mode. If you can actually work with, like, if I was looking at if I was giving advice to when I had just started, the advice that I would give is find 10 top buyers. Don't focus on who has a house to sell, just 10 top buyers, and work with them. Give them as like the best service, and you will be rewarded from that. It's a compound game. If they buy from you, amazing. If not, put them in your database. Find another buyer. Keep replenishing that list. If I look at actually any of my stock list, I'd say 75% of my stock list are people that have either bought from me or have bought from a competitor, but I've serviced them as a buyer. And they've had really good experience. So they've invited me back into their home 2 years later.
It's a big number, 75%.
It would be about 75%. Yeah. A lot of my, I obviously have a chase list, but I do have a lot of referrals. And I do have a lot of people that will come back to me because, as I said, I gave them good service.
So Hills District, where I work, and to be fair with you, I hear this a lot throughout Western Sydney, is you work on the buyers just like we will, like putting together deals. But when it comes to prospecting, no one in our area really prospects buyers as such. It's a lot to do with prospecting and combing the database in that core area. And I had 2 sales guys that were with me for a few years that have recently moved in with Andrew Liddell and David Cameron Smith. And we were talking a couple of weeks ago.
Zach and Tom.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
They're good dudes.
Zach helped us as a buyer, actually.
It's very good. Yeah. They're both very, very good. Now, I was speaking to them a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about how obviously it's a bit different, and they've now gone from working a core area sellers or PVs to now like pretty much solely working buyers, as you mentioned. Now, when I was speaking to them, they said, look, the main reason why they saw a lot more value in doing it is because in the inner west, inner city, eastern suburbs, there's a lot more transactions that people will go through. They'll buy and sell in the same area a lot, and obviously transact once every couple to a few years. Yeah. What we find in, well, at least my core market, you'll have a couple of people that will transact every 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. But I have, and I'd like to say I do good work with the buyers where they end up calling me back when they sell. But what we find is a lot of people don't, and you only have. I've been there for 7, 8 years in the same area, and I've had that a few times. But a lot of people are still there. Like 95% of those buyers are still in the same place of residence. How many of those buyers do you get? Do they actually, once they've bought off you, but they haven't sold with you yet? How often will they refer sellers to you in the core area?
Oh, I wouldn't have a percentage on that, but I think if someone buys on, like, I'll give as an example, Elizabeth Street, because this is where the office is. Someone buys on Elizabeth Street, I give them good service, and if something sells on the street, I'll still continue to touch base with them. And I guess from there, that's when you ask quick questions on, are they doing anything themselves or a family member? And then, you have a conversation, and that may be where a referral comes through. But I don't have a percentage on that.
Because I look at it and I go, well, do you think if you're in my area or Western Sydney, for example, where there isn't transactions happening all the time with the same people, would you be doing the exact same thing still? A lot more buyer work than prospecting and combing the area for sellers?
Be doing both. I think you definitely need to still do the combing of the market. As giving that example, something sells on Elizabeth Street, calling Elizabeth Street, calling the people that you have on your database. There's people on your database on that street that would have definitely have bought from you. So, you have a bit more of a warm relationship with them as opposed to someone that came through an open home that you had 10 years ago. So I think it's definitely important to still make sure that you are doing that form of prospecting. But if I was in my market, if I was to put on your ideal day, how much time do you spend with hot buyers versus combing your database? I would be spending, 80% of my time on your hot list, your hot buyers, your campaign callbacks, old callbacks versus combing the cold data. But that's just in this market.
Yeah.
So not understanding your market as much, that percentage may be different.
Yeah. That's fair. And in terms of, this is coming back to the callbacks again with these buyers, if it's, you said you'll call back through these current campaigns and all that stuff 80% of the time, how often will you call these buyers throughout an auction campaign? Are you speaking to them once a week? Is it once every few days if they're interested? How does your process work with buyers?
Once every couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you've got to understand, is this a campaign that will be selling prior, or is this a campaign that is definitely running to auction? So if it's something that, the vendor has said, I'm really happy to look at offers because I've bought something else, or I'm looking at buying something else, then your conversation with a hot buyer might be every second day, progressing them, letting them know what's happening with your campaign at hand, the buyers that are coming through. Do they need to come back through? Do they need to get a contract reviewed? Are they considering anything else? Because that's really important for us to understand. Are we still first preference, or are they considering something else? Why are they considering that over us? Is it a price thing? Is it a property thing? So if it's a full auction campaign, it may not be every second day. It may be every third or fourth day. It may be a text and a call as opposed to a call and asking all of those questions. So I think you've got to judge each campaign case by case. But it's definitely not a matter of, we're running this to auction and let's just hope all of the buyers show up and call them last week. I just think we're getting paid a lot of money from our vendors, and we need to be understanding exactly who is on our campaign and delivering that feedback back to the client. Because, it could be a matter of having 6 people at the beginning and then 2 at the end, but you've told the vendor we've got 6, and the vendor at the end is like, well, why have we only got 2?
Yeah.
You've told me we're having a hot auction. We actually don't.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of where you're at now, you're running high octane, you're doing a million things at once, you're doing a million deals at once. Like, we walked in and supposed to be a day off and you're doing a million calls, putting together deals. What does your life look like outside of real estate? Because I know inside it's hectic. What does it look like outside?
I'm not great with work-life balance. I won't sit here and say I've got it all sorted. But what I have probably in the last 2 years, probably since opening this business, I don't want to get burnt out. I see a lot of agents, high-performing agents, that get to, I'm 30, they get to, I've been doing it for 10 years. They may get to 15 or 20 years and they go, it's too much. We want to take a step back in the business. We want to do this. We want to do that. So I have invested in a business coach to be able to help me, so speak to my business coach once a month, and I find that amazing because I can really, it's almost like a counselling session where I can just express everything and just go, this is how I'm feeling, how do we fix it? So I've invested in that. Not all the time, but 85% of my week try and, 6 o'clock phones away, 7 o'clock phones away. Or as soon as I get home, I should say, phones away. That's now time for me to be present with my partner and my little dog. And I've really gotten into exercise. So, again, since opening this business, I needed something to be able to just have as a stress relief. So exercise has been my sort of
what time are you getting out? Are you 5 a.m.?
5:30. Can't do 5 a.m. But 5:30. So every morning, 5:30, I get up and I do something. It could be PT, it could be Pilates, it could be weights, but just something so that I can just set my mind. And I think we've got such a high pressure, we're in such a high pressure environment and such a competitive environment that your mind just is always going. And if I can just have an hour in the morning where I don't have to think. I don't have to think about the deal at hand or the listing that I'm competing with or, managing the team for the day or any of those sort of things. If I can just have that hour, that really sets me up for the day.
How hard is it for you not to be on the phone after hours when you get home with your partner if you're doing 160 deals a year?
It is really hard. Like, as I said, I'm not saying that I am amazing at it, but I do think it's also a matter of setting boundaries with your clients. Like, I now in a negotiation, if it gets to 7 or 7:30 or whatever, and I know that this is going to drag on, it's just a matter of just saying to guys, this is, 7:30, you've got kids that you got to feed. The vendor's also bathing their kids. Let's just put a pause on things. We'll resume it in the morning. I think,
Have you ever lost a deal like that where the next morning the buyer's called off?
You got to case by case. Like if you felt that someone is going to be like that, of course, then you would see the negotiation out. But there could be there's certain times that I think you can go, all right, vendors getting antsy because they've got kids that they need to deal with. Buyers also getting antsy. This isn't going anywhere tonight. Let's just pause it and do it in the morning. There may not be that situation, so of course you would negotiate it.
Yeah, I feel like every time me and Jack put together a deal and it goes past 6 p.m, it sits in their inbox ready to sign until like 11 p.m.
That's
and you're just sitting there watching the screen.
And it's like, that's not fair. It's not fair on them. It's also not fair on us because that comes, it eats into your mental headspace and health as well. So I think it's just having really open communication. Like I will always say to a client or my team, guys, like I'm going to be, how's this going to play out? Do you think you'll be able to sign it at an hour? Is it a tomorrow thing? Like we just need to have communication from the beginning so that we can tell all parties.
And with your partner being in real estate too, what happens when you get home? Do you guys talk real estate as well?
Not to. We're separate areas, which helps. And yeah, we've kind of got a good. I'm very fortunate. He's very proud of me, and he's an amazing partner, big supporter of mine. But we try really hard not to talk shop.
Yeah,
because I think his style is very different to my style. So, I think we don't want to kind of have our own opinions on each other's styles. So it's just easier not to talk about it.
What do you find motivates you at the moment, Emily?
Great question. Seeing my team really succeed. Like, obviously me, continuing to sort of progress in my own career, but what really puts a smile on my face is seeing my team. Like, being able to, I've got an associate, Marcus, who's been with us for about 3 years, and seeing where he was at the beginning. He came from another agency, and I sort of had to unteach everything that he knew. So getting him, seeing him from day one to now, going out there and running campaigns by himself and listing, like, he's just won 2 amazing listings, one in Potts Point, one in Woollahra, which he did solo, and he was up against some incredible agents, inner city agents there, which he won. So seeing my team succeed, gets me really excited. What
does your team look like now?
So there's McLay and I. So McLay and I, he does his own listings. I do my own listings. We do a lot together as well. I manage a lot for him also. We've got Siobhan, who's been with us for, I think, about 5 years. She's our team EA. And then we've got 3 sales associates.
Yeah. And in terms of leadership style, how is McLay, a great leader to you, and how's your leadership style compared to him?
Good question. McLay's out on the road a lot. So he a lot of his mentorship and leadership, I guess, is when we're when we're on the field together, at open homes, at listings together. And that's not just for me, that's for the rest of the team. I think my approach, I'm probably, maybe because I'm a female as well, I've got probably a bit more of a gentle nature where a lot of people feel like they can confide in me, tell me what they're struggling with, and then get my advice that way. It's not to say it's because McLay doesn't have time, because he certainly does. He will stop everything and give us time. But I think it's just we're very different personalities. He's very high paced, high energetic, like go, go, go. So they get that sort of excitement and drive that way. But with me, I probably have a bit more of a softer nature.
Mm. What do you think was the best thing, learning and growing with McLay on the come up?
I think we learnt from our mistakes, and we made sure we didn't make them again.
What have been some of the biggest mistakes you guys have made?
I won't go into them all. But I think it's just building the team, who to hire, what's an important hire versus what isn't, as someone that you may need a year or 2 before you need to fill that space. So for example, rather than having 4 sales associates and no EA, having an amazing EA, making sure that that's the conveyor belt's working really well there, the communication between you is working really well, then adding a sales associate in, making sure they're really well trained, then adding another in. So I think now we've got, McLay and I have amazing communication. So, when things aren't working, we voice it. When things are working, we voice it, so that we can make sure that we continue to do, continue to do the right things.
There's a big revolving door in the industry. Young agents come and go quite often. What have you seen the best young associates come into the business? What are they like, and how do they transition? What are the best guys like and girls?
They listen and they want to be taught. If I sit in front of associates almost every week. A lot of people want to join this office, and if someone says to me, I have done 20 deals and I can run campaigns and I can do this and I can do that, but their data, I guess, is reflecting otherwise, I sort of think, you say you're wanting me to listen to what you're saying. You're telling me all of the right things, but your data's not showing me that. But I get the sense that you just don't want to be taught. You're going to be that type of person that's not going to be a sponge. The associates that we have, upstairs, they've been with us for many years now, and they want to learn everything. If I say, guys, I need you to, go sweep Paddington Street. I've got the best buyer coming in the next 20 minutes. Who can go do it? They're just like, whatever you can do, Em, because this is going to help you with closing the deal, which is going to help us in the long run. It's going to help us as a team. But sitting there and, saying, you did that deal. How did you get that buyer from X to Y? Can you just sit down and teach me, like, how did that happen? Just tell me how that all unfolded. So I think, being open to change your practices if you're coming from another agency, to be able to, I guess, work with us to teach you our skill set.
Mm-hmm. In terms of your competitors, as mentioned, the most competitive market in the country being eastern suburbs, do you ever get nervous coming into listing appointments and you're competing against one of the top guys?
At the beginning, yes. Like, I'd say probably about 5 or 6 years ago, the two people that I compete with the most, their not justification, but their listing pitch when they knew I was in there was, why would you go with her? She's an assistant. And that used to really piss me off because I'm like, I'm not an assistant. I've got the skill set of a senior agent. I am a senior agent. Because I'm a woman, don't class me as being an assistant. Yeah. So then I got a bit of a fire in my belly, and a lot of clients were telling me this. They were saying, I was winning the listings, and they're saying, just want to let you know, your competitor said you're the assistant. And, so it gave me a fire in the belly to be like, I'm not an assistant. So I changed my listing style to make it very well known that I wasn't the assistant. I was a lead agent, an amazing agent, and I'm going to be the best person to represent you. And these are the reasons why. So, I went up against 4 amazing agents yesterday, and I don't focus on I actually don't care who I'm going up. I knew who I was going up against, but I don't care. I don't focus on that because my skill set is so different to theirs. My style is so different to theirs. So I want to explain that to the client. And if we work and it, amazing. If it doesn't, I want to understand why I didn't get the listing so that I can change my style for the next time.
What about
I think if you focus, sorry to cut you off, and this is probably also from my business coach as well. If you focus on, it's like a swimming or running a race. If you look at the other lanes, you're always going to be behind. So you just need to focus on your own skill set and mind, rather than everyone else.
What about advice for the other women in the industry that are coming up and finding their feet, and they might be coming up against guys that are using that same thing or putting them down just because they might be a female in the industry, in a male-dominated industry? What would your advice be to the ladies?
Explain why you're not an assistant. And what I mean by that is go show them the data, show them the properties that you've sold personally or that you've had involvement in. And also, I guess, I used to say to people, it's a shame that they're saying that I'm assistant because I'm a female. Like, that's really disappointing. That's not a great character for them.
Right.
But I think if you show someone, if you have high energy, you're clear in your listing pitch, or you're clear when you're talking to a buyer and you can articulate how you're going to get them the best price, and you do all of those things really well, they're not going to think you're an assistant. They're going to know that you know your stuff.
Yeah.
Would you recommend real estate for females?
I think it's a great industry. I think it gives you flexibility, maybe not at the beginning if you want to. It depends, I guess, on what you want. For me, it motivates me to be in the top 10. That's what really gets me excited. That's what gets me going. That's what keeps my team going, knowing that they're going to all rise up with McLay and I as well. But for some people, that may not motivate them. They may be happy doing 1 or 2 listings a month, and that's also fine. Or, one or two a quarter, that's also fine. I think it's an amazing industry to give you flexibility. It's an amazing industry for your income as well, because you get to control that with how much you put in or don't put in. But it also is. It's tough. It can be tough. So you've got to be resilient.
Mm.
Would you, knowing what you know now, would you do real estate again?
Definitely.
Being in the industry for 10 years, well, in Sydney for 10 years, you've started off being a sales associate EA, and once you transitioned to being an agent, you were listing and selling probably not at the same price point you are now. You're obviously very confident coming into listing appointments up against the best and beating them. But, what happens when you're coming up now, and even now you guys are moving up in price point? Do you get nervous when you're going into listings that you haven't necessarily sold in that price point just yet, or when you were coming up as well?
I think nervous probably isn't the best to answer your question. I probably wouldn't say that I'm nervous, but I think that's when you can leverage on the people that you have around you. So, for where I was in the previous agency versus now, my average sale price has grown significantly. And that's due to the fact that I've been able to leverage off the other agents at Sotheby's with properties that they've sold, understanding what buyers they've got left over, to then go into a listing pitch and say, we sold this, that buyer's still looking, they'd be great for yours. So nervous isn't, probably the right word, but just being well educated and well informed, I guess, to then go in and move yourself into a different price point. And you may lose a few to begin with, but it takes getting that one to then help with your average sale price, and then, growing it from there.
Does the process change much?
No. It's the best buyers that you're working with. The listing pitch doesn't change. It only changes if you're not confident in what you're trying to deliver and articulate to the client.
Your role now, being one of the directors, what does your day look like typically now? Like, is it on the phones all the time still with buyers? Is it a lot with training? What does it look like now?
Yeah. I sort of wear a few hats here. I do a lot of my own listing and sales. I do a lot with McLay, and I've got, a team that I look after as well. So plus the office that I look after. I've got some amazing admin support to be able to help with, looking after the office and looking after our properties as well. But my day, I try and keep my day where at least in the morning I'm in the office so I can sort out, my tasks at hand, dealing with my clients and my pipeline and all of that. And then in the afternoon, dealing with appointments. And then obviously you have the ad hoc stuff that comes in between.
And burnout, you mentioned this before, you don't want to get to that 15, 20-year mark and burn out. How do you manage burnout when you're running at this pace?
Got to take breaks.
Yeah.
So I've learnt this through McLay, which is something called a recovery plan. And Ivan may have spoken about it as well. I think Ivan was the one that sort of implemented it with McLay. And that's, once a quarter, setting up a break. So you run hard and then you have something to look forward to. How
long's a break typically?
Could be a month. Sorry, not a month. It could be a week, could be a few days. But, I think end of year, I always like to take 3 weeks off over that December period. Normally this time of year, I'll take a week or 2 off, but it seems like it's actually been a bit busier this time of year. And I'm renovating a house at the moment. So it's kind of forced me to stay here. But, at the end of each quarter, I like to take at least a long weekend off with my partner so that we can have a bit of us time and reset, realign my goals as well. I work in mini goals as opposed to I want to do, X amount of sales at the end of the year. I can't set goals that way. So for me personally, I do, a quarter. This is like what I'd like to achieve. break that down into, January, February, March, how many listings I would need in order to get that goal. So I think, at the end of my sort of recovery plan, I'm well rested. I've had my break. I've had a bit of time off. I haven't had people harassing me on the phone. And, I'm feeling charged for the next quarter.
What happens with your quarterly goals if you don't hit your listings and sales targets? Are you beating yourself up, or are you going, well, I did my best, it's probably the market? How do you look at it?
Really good question. My first few years, I would beat myself up like really bad, and I'd really get in my head and I'd be really flat. And then that would set me up like, for a week of being unproductive and still going back to what I didn't do. And then it's like I've just wasted a week. And then the next week you're trying to recover. Like it's just so McLay actually said to me once, you need to celebrate these like the mini wins. Like the fact that I'm 30, I'm a director of this business. I've got the most amazing team behind me. I'm ranked in the REB. That's a win. Like that's a really good win. I may or may not have got those quarterly goals, but there's other things going on in my life that's amazing, that I think you need to focus on. As I mentioned before, exercise has really helped in me not being able to get in my head, so that in the morning I wake up and I say 5 things that I'm grateful for.
What was one thing you said this morning?
My partner.
Oh,
Talk about him a lot on this. But I say things like my people that I'm around, my health, like the fact that we have the ability today to control our financial future. So focusing on those things, focusing on the mini wins rather than beating yourself up on what you may or may not have achieved.
It sounds like, Emily, you're not too much of a forward thinker in terms of goals, but I just wanted to ask, what would success look like to you in say 5-10 years time?
Mm-hmm.
Like how would you go, yeah, I've done well?
Growing out this business, expanding the team, having, McLay and I have such a great team, already, but he and I, we list a lot together. I'd love to be able to translate that to the next, associate, where they can sort of bounce off me like I have off him. Growth here is the biggest thing. Obviously, I want to continue to be, my own success, to be able to climb up the ranks in how I'm ranked in REB and all of those sort of things. But my biggest goal is this business.
Yeah. I've got a question from Jack, one of my associates, actually Tom's brother. Question for Emily. For an associate coming up to their second year like himself, what would you think a day-to-day should look like based on your experiences? And are there any key things he should look for in himself to keep accountable to doing every day?
Does Jack do admin?
Sales associate.
So no admin?
A little bit admin.
Okay.
Not a lot.
So my morning would look like, so I'd be breaking up call sessions. My morning would look like the hot buyers that you're working with at the moment. So let's say they're 10, calling them, seeing if there's anything that on your stock list that you could show them. If not, anyone in the office, properties that you could show them there. If you can't do that, if you don't have the stock, then asking them questions, what else they're looking at, because you'll find, at least in our market, 80% of the time there'll be off-market properties that you may not know about, that may not even be signed, that then you can, get an opportunity to pitch on.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, happens a lot around here.
So you get your buyers telling you about properties to...
If you have a good relationship,
Wow.
yeah. So that would be my morning call block. Then always break it up. Like that might go for an hour and a half. Then you're going to be tired. Like go for a walk around the block, go get a coffee, just do something so that you can then work out what you're doing next. My next session would be old callbacks because you want to be able to replenish your hot buyers because some of them may have bought. So I go through properties that have sold at the beginning of the year that, maybe 3 or 4 books that others in the office wouldn't have touched because you'll find that most people in your office will be touching or in your team will be going through recent callbacks, properties that sold 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like you've already got those buyers. Try and find people that were not financed approved at the beginning of the year that, may not have sold, now have sold and have urgency to buy. Then you have lunch, and then my afternoon would be typically broken up with buyer appointments, and then I'd like to get another call session in there. And a call session could be the street calls, like as we spoke about before, working your farm area. So that may be you've just sold something on, X street, you want to do the 4 streets around, updating them of that result.
Now, if he's been into a lot of listing appointments with me, what would you think is the next steps for him to learn and practice his own listing appointments? If we're not going into a lot of out of area stuff, which you might not be going to, how else would you progress in terms of listing skill set?
So at the moment, you're doing a lot together.
Like if there's any out of area listings or apartments.
It's scary. It's really scary. It's like that security blanket. But you're going to have to lose a couple to then realize what you've done, what you could have done differently to then start winning a few.
And go by himself, right?
You have to go by yourself. And I know it's scary, but, it's more rewarding. It's really like you'll feel this like fire in your belly when you win one. You're like, no, I did that by myself. I didn't have anyone behind me.
That's awesome. What would be your advice to your younger self if you were starting out again, day one, McLay?
Don't focus on the small wins. Don't beat yourself up on, things that you can't control. You can only control the controllables. And I think, just focus on your own race. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing around you. I've never had any jealousy on my competitors, and I've never had any jealousy against, McLay or anyone else in the office. I think if they win, that's going to allow me to win. That's going to change for my competitors. That's going to change my skill set to allow me to win. So just focus on your own race. And it's a day by day thing. Like if you try and predict what's going to happen in 5 years' time, you're going to be thinking about that and not what you're doing today.
I think my last question, just something for any ladies listening, whether they be a sales agent already doing well, whether it be someone coming up the ranks, what would be your advice to any of the ladies listening?
Don't worry about what people saying that it's a male-dominated industry. I actually think it's a lot easier for us females because we have, typically that different level of empathy and compassion that we can pass on to the client. So yeah, that probably isn't really like the best advice, but.
Well, to be honest, I kind of get nervous when I come up against ladies for that reason. I'm like, oh, that's the one thing I think they can beat me on right here.
Yeah, I think I hear a lot of people go, it's a male-dominated industry, especially a lot of women that have maybe been doing it for a lot longer than me. I've never focused on that. I just focus on, I use it to my advantage personally.
100%.
My last question for you, Em, would be for those that are in their like late 20s, 30s, maybe have similar aspirations to yourself to be a director of a business, or they're kind of a few steps behind you, but they're looking to kind of have that next career change. What advice would you share for those people having just changed offices and kind of had that big leap yourself?
Make sure you do it with someone, I shouldn't say do it by yourself. I shouldn't say to you, don't do it on yourself, but it is quite difficult to I couldn't imagine handling all of this pressure just myself, if that makes sense. Like I've got McLay as a business partner. We've been a team for 10 years. We've got a lot of trust behind us both. We're more like a family. then, so it makes it a lot easier to be able to do it together because we can sort of carry the load ourselves. I guess to answer your question, make sure you've got a good team behind you and make sure you're organised and have good communication from the beginning.
I've got one last question. What's a question that you wish you were asked because you feel like you can share a lot of value if you were asked it?
Ooh, you've trumped me on that one.
Or if it makes it easier for you, what's a piece of insight or knowledge or wisdom you carry which you see daily, which you think if you shared this would add a lot of value?
Just be honest with clients. Makes it so much easier, to be honest. Don't get into games. I think, carry yourself and your business the way that you want to do business with others. So if you want someone to be honest and respectful with you, then it needs to be reciprocated.
Brilliant. Emily Davidson, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.